Are there any thematic elements that you're expecting to be like front and center at the conference outside of about the obvious safe talk?
Hey everyone, welcome to our latest Trade to Black podcast. We keep on talking about positive sentiment within this industry. We keep teasing about it in a few previous podcasts, and that is how the biggest conference that we've seen in a while, the Benzinga Capital Conference pertaining to cannabis, is taking place this week in Chicago. And we've got one of the executives on from Benzinga, Elliot Lane. Good to see you, sir. How are things?
They're busy. Chad, Anthony, appreciate you both having me on. Really appreciate it. Excited to see you both tomorrow.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my God, nice. It's already tomorrow.
Also host of, what's the official name of you and Javier's podcast?
Cannabis Insider. It used to be Cannabis Hour when Jason, Raznick, and Patrick were first hosting it. And get this, Alan Brockstein was co-hosting it with them. Throwback a little bit. So they were all co-hosting it together. And then all three of them within a month were like, I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
So Javier and I ended up, we've really been doing it since the beginning, if you think about it, but we weren't technically the founders.
How are those personalities with Raznick and Brockstein in the same room?
You know what I described Raznick as the other day? I was like, Raznick really goes for points that matter, but aren't always priority in the conversation. Does that make sense? Right. You know, he's like, he touches on things you want to touch on, but like, maybe that's not where you were going to go.
Yeah.
That's what you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, that's for sure. Anthony Verrill, good to see you. We'll see you in Chicago this week.
I'm excited. I just got back from Colorado, getting on a plane tomorrow and going to Chicago.
Yeah, it's exciting. So listen,
I'm just happy to travel again.
Yeah. Our viewers are probably watching, okay, what do they want to get out of this podcast? So walk us through for the people that aren't going to be meeting. Like, what do you anticipate? We're going to have the biggest thought leaders in this space. You guys have in the past when it comes to, you're classified as the premier cannabis conference within the industry, have one in Miami in the spring. Little grim as far as the overall atmosphere there back 6 months ago, only because the industry was in dire straits. That's been turned upside down. There's a lot of positive momentum going on, but maybe share with our viewers as to why there's so much positive sentiment and the turnout that you're anticipating this week.
It's going to be a great turnout, you know, and I think when you think about Benzinga, it's quality of attendee. Everybody that's walking the halls is somebody that can bring value to you and is usually a decision maker, whether it's a practice, a grow, a retailer, a brand, whatever it may be. You know, there are decision makers walking, you know, in the halls of Benzinga. You know, past that though, the sentiment is definitely different. However, I still feel a cautious optimism, right? Okay. I think people going into this conference are absolutely stoked to hear what a lot of these leading operators, a lot of these leading analysts and economists and these investors, these services, these debt providers, they're all going to be talking about what's happening in DC, which of course is the HHS recommendation to the DEA to reschedule to Schedule 3. But on the day of our event, on the first day, which is Wednesday, the 27th, that morning, the Senate Banking Committee is marking up safer now. And with that, we actually had to change around a bunch of our agenda because we had Ed Perlmutter, Corey Gardner, Safira Galoob, and Reggie Babin all involved in DC, obviously, in more ways than one for each of them. They were speaking right in the morning. So what we've done is we've switched an investor panel with this panel so that they can watch and be present during the Senate Banking Committee, and they're going to respond directly to that in their panel at Benzinga. So we're going to have 4 thought leaders that are actively involved in DC politics when it comes to the cannabis space. Watch this and then talk to our attendees about what the hell it meant this morning for the cannabis space. So things like that, I am absolutely jacked. I am stoked that we have this fortunate timing for our event, but it's going to be, I don't want to say a windfall, but it's going to be a snowball effect from event to event to event. Everybody's super excited. There's going to be a lot to talk about on site. But one thing I don't want to lose track of is, you know, we already have several, I would say probably close to 1,000 meetings have been set up at this event. And that's what this event's for. The content is always where Benzinga hangs its hat on. I think it's second to none. But the meetings that come from this, I talked to people from Miami who made money from our event and who raised some debt, who raised maybe a little bit of equity because of our event. You know, and it's happening, right? You know, it's not nearly as present as it was 2 years ago or you know, during, you know, a larger boom in the space. But there are companies still raising, and those people that have dry powder are still at our event. And who knows what happens if something happens the morning of the 27th on Wednesday? Who knows? We could see some major movement in the next 6 months.
Are there any thematic elements that you're expecting to be like front and center at the conference outside of the obvious safe talk?
I actually think the recommendation is going to be a larger through line than safer, because I think when you look at these conversations, half of them, all of them, they've already met each other, right? So they already have an idea of what they're going to talk about, and HHS is more present in their minds, and a lot of them think that HHS is more important than safer. Yeah. I think both of them are incredibly important, but I understand why for the health of balance sheets. So I think the HHS is going to be a bigger through line when you talk about M&A, when you talk about equity and debt. When you talk about distressed assets, I mean, we're going to have discussions on all of that. And even the health of CPG and how companies choose to expand and license to other markets is completely determined by how much money they have. So the HHS rescheduling, or, recommending to reschedule is going to be, I think, a much bigger player throughout than we planned for a month ago. That's for sure.
Think about what that conversation we had from Nicholas Vita that's actually be posting later this week, Anthony, about, his tax bracket basically gets chopped in half as soon as this gets rescheduled to a Schedule 3, and what that does for companies overnight, right?
Yeah, I mean, cannabis companies from a fundamental perspective completely change. That all the 280E that's been sucked out of the businesses are now going to drop to the bottom line, and they're going to have free cash flow to play with. It's going to be interesting. I mean, we've seen companies like GTI already announce that $50 million stock buyback program. I mean, they're obviously a blue chip in the space, but there's probably going to be more of that. You're going to see companies start to creatively lever the free cash that's going to be created by 280 dropping.
Yeah.
And it's just begun.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about 1,000 meetings scheduled already for this week. That sounds like a lot of meetings.
We had 3,000 for Miami.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the thing. So Benzinga, our two pillars are content and networking. Everything at our event is built around those two pillars. With networking, you have the exhibit hall, you have private networking spaces, you have a deal room where we're only accepting buyers and sellers direct. So no brokers, no services are allowed in that room. We have breakfasts, like a C-suite breakfast. Yep. So we have these different ways for people to connect with each other. And that is the most important and memorable aspect of any event, is who you walk away knowing. And for me, if I can help everybody meet 5 people, then I think this event's a success.
So
I literally used the Benzinga conferences to build our business with Technical 420. I mean, I'm not ashamed to admit that, but I mean, I literally built the business through those meetings.
Awesome.
Both one-on-one and B2B at Benzinga. Yes, it's of utmost value.
My first conference, it was like, "Good afternoon, Mr. Lane. My name is Shad Dales." And now here we are 3 years later. And it's just like, "What's up, bro?"
Now we're like, what are you doing? What are you doing to this event? Let's get you up there.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, but you guys have built such an awesome business too. And love your all's content just from a personal perspective.
Appreciate that. It's all about the viewers and what they want. But it's just, what allows us to obviously get our kind of foot in the door, just for our viewers to understand, is building relationships at these conferences. But you talked about some key people that we're going to have to shift around, some scheduling that are attached to Washington. What are some of the big name thought leaders that'll be featured at this event that you have on tap?
I'm so proud of what we've built here. We have every single tier 1 MSO, right? I don't think any event does that but us. If I'm maybe I'm mistaken, but I don't think they do, the exception of maybe Canaccord. But with
Canaccord's probably the only. Canaccord's probably the only one.
But when's the last time Canaccord has put on a cannabis conference? Has it been a couple of years?
They haven't.
You've got a front row seat to the market.
Yeah, they haven't bragged about it recently. I will say, I think they had one, recently, but again, I only know that because, we're front row seats to the analyst notes that come through. And their debriefs. But with that, sorry, go ahead.
So you're going to talk like Kim Rivers, Boris Jordan, Jason Wild. Yep. So when you look at, I saw some of the pamphlets and saw some of the personalities that were featured on there. What's some of the topics that like Kim's going to be addressing at the conference, or even people like Boris?
People want to hear about them, right? They want to hear about the markets that they're in. I imagine Kim's going to be talking about 2024 and what that's going to bring for True Leave. The state of Florida, everybody's looking at the state of Florida for that company I would imagine right now, but they're still incredibly active in other states as well. So I think they're going to be looking for a really strong capital markets discussion because they have Aaron Gray moderating her. So I'm really excited for that. And I think for investors, especially advanced investors that are looking at the cannabis space and public companies, don't miss that, right? And if you can't make it to the event, we're a public media company. All of this content will be available eventually. Keep an eye out for it. But this is the moment where an analyst, paid to dissect the value of companies, is talking to the CEO of one of the most profitable and biggest companies in the space. Profitable is arguable, but money-making machine that Trulieve is, right? We'll have Jason Wild. He's going to be speaking with another analyst, and Jesse Redmond from Water Tower. So there's a lot of capital markets focused investment opportunity discussions about the future of these larger companies. Charlie Bachtell, he's probably going to be talking more about DC. He's super big into the legislative side. So I expect him to come in on the morning of the 28th and just really talk about perhaps what Cresco does in response to what Safer, what happened with Safer the day before, what will happen with Safer. But honestly, I'm incredibly excited to host the FDA. We're going to have two senior cannabis officials, Norman Birnbaum, familiar to a lot of people in this space, but he's also bringing his colleague, Patrick Knoyer, the lead for cannabis products at the FDA. So we're going to be having them. And then a couple hours right after them, we're having the governor of Illinois from J.B. Pritzker. The day before that, we're having the governor. Yeah, I'm pumped. If you want...
If people want to watch this, they can stream this on at your YouTube channel, or
it's not going to be live. We'll have that for our editorial team directly. So keep an eye on Benzinga's cannabis channel. If you have our app, just scroll over to the cannabis news feed, and we'll be updating editorial articles throughout. But we're a media company, right? We like our own clicks at first, and then everybody else can dissect that and get their own media after.
Is the FDA slated to talk about, or is that a panel, or are those presentations?
The FDA themselves. So it's going to be them and moderated by David Mangone from the liaison group.
So there'll be Q&A for because I'd love to hear out the FDA schedule, what their take is on Schedule 3.
Full transparency, they're not going to say anything about that. I tried working my charm and magic, Anthony. Your charm may be more powerful than mine. Though, what they are talking about, I still think directly impacts a lot of these companies, and that's the hemp, consumable hemp side, right? I think a lot of these companies are really maybe not a lot of like the top tier 1 MSOs, but I think it does affect in regards to what access people in North Carolina have, where I am. Right, I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. My district attorney is thrilled with Delta 8. He's totally fine with it. Right.
See, I think I'd take the counterpoint of that, and I firmly believe Delta 8 and Delta 9 are a liability towards the
I agree
regulated cannabis industry.
That's what I'm saying. I completely agree with you.
I mean, because from a regulatory perspective, the Farm Bill is a mess that it actually allows for Delta 8 and Delta 9, because those psychoactive products, God forbid a kid ODs, or God forbid a kid gets a hold of them, and they're in most states it's 18 and up, and that is psychoactive THC. No matter how you want to classify it, it is a complete liability for all of the companies.
I could not agree with you more. And I think there's value to these companies, but making money off of a loophole is not a long-term solution.
Yeah,
correct. Yeah, and the money that the Delta 8 and Delta 9 companies are making is crazy. All things considered,
they don't really need investors right now.
No, I've got a buddy that had a failed edibles company. He started Delta 8 and Delta 9. They're doing like $40 million a year DTC with tinctures and edibles, all online. It's crazy.
When I talk to these companies, I always ask,
"What are we doing?
Oh, are you looking from a recreational standpoint, or are you looking for a wellness standpoint?" Right? If you're looking from a wellness standpoint, I think you structure your products differently.
Yeah.
But,
absolutely.
Like SunMed. I think SunMed could be a power, in terms of, if there is some compromise or meet in the middle. Because you are seeing West Coast brands like Sumo Snacks. They're starting a Delta 9 brand in Texas. And it's going to be...
Look at the Mike Tyson ears.
Exactly.
They're regulated THC. in like Illinois and a bunch of other markets, Miracle Leaf, that are the patient card providers for the state of Florida, you can buy Delta 8 and Delta 9 Mike Tyson ears in all of their offices as you get your card and you're on your way to a traditional
Oh
dispensary.
my God.
Which, please tell me in what reality that makes sense. But yes, wherever Delta 8 and Delta 9 can be sold, they're finding places to sell it.
Oh yeah.
And it also is the mainstream brands.
It takes market share.
Because it's just,
Yeah.
yep.
You know, that and the black market are both, you know, I understand why marijuana companies, you know, tier one especially, are just trying to, you know, lobby against it completely. It makes sense to me. I don't know, because I think there's a lot of research that we still have to do from a scientific and medical standpoint before we can ban it. However, something needs to happen right now from an economic standpoint.
Yeah, I just don't think you should be able to go online and get a 100 milligram pack of gummies. Because the wrong consumer or the wrong kid that gets the idea, they're going to have a very bad time.
You know, the first time I saw that was CBDMD on their e-commerce site.
Yeah.
And it was selling like 100 milligrams of THC. And I went to Javier, I was like, is this legal? And he was like, no, this is not legal. And then we like went into it and we're like, what the hell is this? Excuse my language.
So Wednesday, you and all your fine company are going to allow us to live stream at 4:00 once the market closes Central Time. That's 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So leave a comment below. Let us know if there's any specific companies that you want us to reach out, any comments on based questions that you want to ask. As we said, there is a star-studded lineup that's going to be there. So any companies, any questions, we'll reach out to them. Even if they're not on the live stream, we'll make sure to reach out and ask those questions prior to going live later that day. I'm pretty stoked, pretty happy. I know Anthony is too. And I think we're on the same flight into Chicago tomorrow, Elliot. So
yeah, I think we'll probably see a lot of friends on that flight, but I'm excited. Please, if you all can still make it, we welcome you. Reach out to Elliot Lane at Benzinga.com. I'll hook you up with a discount code, but we really want everybody in the cannabis space to benefit from this. We're not, you know, we have scholarship tickets for free access to all of our events. Not anymore. It's a little late for that. You know, but we want to include every corner of this industry. We want to support minority and women-owned businesses. We want to support veteran-owned businesses and those who have been affected by the war on drugs. Weldon Angelos is going to be speaking at our event. We're offering a portion of our ticket sales to Mission Green. We want to make sure that we are a partner to the cannabis space, and that's very important to us. You know, so anything that we are missing, we welcome feedback. We welcome testimonials, but we welcome constructive feedback all day and every day.
Great team. But I think, as you said, 1,000 meetings taking place this week. The sentiment that's positive right now. We're going to have some interesting news come Wednesday pertaining to safe banking. But I think the most important message I want to convey to obviously our viewers right now that can't make the event, this is a big time event. The timing of it is absolutely perfect. And there should be some interesting things that take place soon after this conference. Because as you said, people that even in grim times have made money on previous conferences, I think you're going to see a lot of stuff that's going to come to fruition that we're unaware of now. But we've kind of talked about in the last couple of weeks, Anthony, where some of these companies to ride this wave should start pushing out some press releases. And I would highly anticipate stuff like that is going to happen soon after this conference. But
yeah, I mean, that was my first thought when we were talking to Nick earlier. I was like, I was sitting there thinking in my head, I was like, I missed the press releases where it's like, Columbia Care entered Pennsylvania, Columbia Care entered Ohio, and then you can see Curaleaf, TrueLeaf, GTI, just boom, 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 boom. I mean, M&A activity and consolidation is what's going to really make this industry exciting again.
We're seeing new money too. And I got to tell you, I see the attendee list, and there are people that I've never seen before coming as an investor.
When you say that, and other people, like, what do you mean? Like, just retail investor people are interested, or some
people looking for licenses, people who have licenses looking you know, to acquire other assets. There are, I mean, there was one that's they're acquiring a bank, you know, but alongside of that, they're just looking to invest in a plant touching and then a POS. I mean, there's a lot of specific mandates that people are prepared to come to our conference to fulfill. Now, you know, there's no guarantee that they will, but at the same time, there's no better place to have those conversations.
Yeah. All right, sir. We'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And we look forward to obviously seeing everybody there. But yeah, everybody stay close. We're going to have a lot of information this week as we'll be down there giving you all the information, working in conjunction with the Benzinga team, featuring a lot of big name people with big time news. And we got news coming on Wednesday related to Washington. So it's exciting times to say the least. Elliot, we'll see you later this week.
Thanks, Chad. Thank you, Anthony. Nice to see you guys.
Thank
see you
you for your
soon.
time.
Take
See you
care.
tomorrow.
What's up, everyone? So what'd you think of the interview? Are there any more questions you want us to ask that you want to learn more of? Then leave a comment below and let us know what you think. As usual, share this video with your network, smash that like button, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel because we would not be here without you. Thanks for watching, everyone.